That day, somebody must have arrived in the gym and found a bench press full of blood stains and a 65-pound dumbbell with half my finger still attached to it. Hi folks, it's Uranus, and in this video I will talk to you about the worst ever fitness injury I had just about 3 years ago. I did a mistake, and the consequences of that mistake I will carry for the rest of my life. Over the course of my fitness transformation, I injured myself a lot doing stupid things or because I was arrogant in the gym, but this one definitely tops it all. I injured one of my fingers while bench pressing and I needed urgent surgery, which took me out of proper lifting for months. I will go over the accident, how you can easily avoid it. I will go over my surgery, my recovery, the supplements I used to accelerate my recovery, and the mistakes I did, of course. Now, first things first, there will be some gore pictures and some videos. Well, actually, my iPhone put the pictures of my injury automatically in my food album next to the barbecue pictures, so it actually thinks my injured finger is a sausage or something. So if you're scared of sausages, well, you know what to do, because there will be some gore. So let's get to it. So it's Monday evening after work. I'm exhausted because I've been cutting for 5 months trying to lose the fat I gained while bulking like an idiot. I heard you gotta eat big to get big, so I gained 15 kilos thinking it was all going to be muscle, except it wasn't. I just got fatter. So anyway, I just lost 12 kilos cutting and I had actually reached my target. I took some progress pictures and things were actually good. But with the calorie restriction and all the cardio I was doing, I was really feeling off and I could feel that my body needed a couple of days off. I could feel I needed rest. Also, I have to admit my own mistakes. The weekend before the accident, I went to a housewarming party and my body did not fully recover yet from going to bed at 5 a.m. So the idiot I am, on Monday evening I still decide to go to the gym. You know, what else is a single man supposed to do on a Monday evening after work, right? I arrive at the gym, I dry scoop my favorite pre-workout, and since it's Monday, it's International Chest Day, I decide to do my chest. So I warm up and I head down to the room where there is all the free weights and the bench presses, and since it's Monday in a commercial gym, pre-COVID, it's full of people. Luckily, I found a bench press that's free, so I jump like a lion on it, I take it, but unfortunately there's like 15 people standing in front of the rack weights, and so I take my bench press and I go to the back of the room where there is no mirrors, but also where there's no people, but also no mirrors. First set, I warm up with the 12 kilos, I do like 12 reps. I already realized during my warm-up sets that my body is more tired than usual. You know, Uranus is feeling off. So first tip, if you're so tired that you can't even do your warm-up sets properly at the gym, stay home and rest harder than last time, you know. Since I'm in the back of the room, I don't re-rack my warm-up weights because I'm thinking I'm still going to use them for another exercise like flies. So normally I always put them under my bench press, but for some reason that day I leave them right to the side of my bench on the floor. So I go grab my working weight of 30 kilos and I come back to my bench, who's in the back of the room, and I start doing my first set. So of course I'm tired, and normally with 30 kilos I can do like 12 reps, 10 to 12 reps easily, but that day I reached failure at number 7, you know. So I really tried to do one more rep because you know how important it is to finish on an even number, but the weight is not going up anymore. I reached failure. Since I've reached failure, I can't gently put the weight on my knees anymore, so I have to throw them to the side of me. So I do exactly like Scott Herman is showing in this video.
Or you can come all the way down like this, turn them in, and then drop them to the ground.
Except I dropped the weight right on top of those motherfucking 12s who were still sitting to the side of me. So I drop the weights and I immediately feel this slight pinching sensation in my left hand, you know, nothing too bad. You know that feeling you have where you put your finger in the wrong place at the wrong time. I then look down at my hand and it takes me 4 or 5 seconds to realize that there's blood pouring out of my finger and going everywhere on the bench, on my clothes and on the floor. I literally stare at it because I'm in complete denial. In my mind, I think I just cut my finger, I just needed some stitches and that was it. Again, if you're sensible to pictures of injuries, look away. This is what the wound looked like after they cleaned it in the ER. Stitches were no longer an option because there was barely any skin left on my finger. It turns out my fingers got caught between my working weight of 30 kilos and the warm-up weights on the side. But not only did the weight fall on it, it fell sideways, rolling forward. So it literally caught my finger and ripped it open completely apart. I lost a piece of bone, I lost some flesh, some skin, and some fat bubbles. The fat bubbles is the white stuff that you can see on this picture. My surgeon actually called that pulp. Apparently our fingers are full of pulp. I thought pulp was for orange juice, but apparently our fingers are full of pulp. I learned that the hard way, and I wish I would never see my pulp again. Of course, back in the gym I didn't realize the injury was so serious, or maybe I was just in denial. So I just went to the lobby of my gym. I told them I had an accident, there was blood pouring out of everywhere, and since it's a commercial gym, they gave me all the help they could. They gave me a tissue and they told me to fuck off to the hospital. So I went to my car and I took this picture next to my car, and I realized probably it's not best to drive right now, so I just went on foot to the ER. Still in complete denial, I went on foot to the ER. I arrived at the hospital. I had to wait like 3 hours while I was redecorating the floor before they took an X-ray, which confirmed that I lost a piece of bone. So after 3 hours of waiting, I have a student nurse look at my finger and clean the wound. So they took some pictures when they were cleaning the wound, and they sent them on a surgeon through WhatsApp. And I looked at the picture, and it's at that exact moment I realized I fucked up, because I could almost see through my finger. Now that surgeon answered immediately on WhatsApp that he was on a holiday and that I was supposed to take an appointment in 1 week to get a surgery to try to save my finger. So they put my finger in some kind of chicken wrap, and I had to get back to the ER twice, because at the lobby of the hospital they wouldn't let me out because I was still bleeding everywhere on the floor and on the desk at the lobby. So they sent me back to the ER, and they finally managed to make me a bandage worthy of being called a bandage. So I get out of the hospital, it's 11 p.m. on a Monday evening, and I have a full-blown panic attack, because a couple of days before I had reached my Calvin Klein physique, I was happy, I was lifting, I had an active lifestyle, things were generally good. And right now, my finger is completely messed up. I don't know if I will ever lift again. I'm supposed to take an appointment in 7 days with a surgeon. Now, you tell me. Let me know in the comments, guys. Would you have waited 7 days before having surgery, or before having a surgeon look at it? Seriously, if I had waited 7 days, I would have lost my finger. So I have a full-blown panic attacks. Now, what do you do in those situations? You call your mother, of course. What else? So I called my mother, and luckily she knew a hand surgeon, and I called the guy at almost midnight, and he told me, yeah, be in my office at 8 a.m. the next morning. So next day I arrive in his office, I give him the finger, I show him the X-ray, and he tells me, okay, I'm gonna operate you during my lunch hour. It turns out that small piece of flesh left of my finger, the one the nurse was holding here, was actually detrimental to fixing my finger so that it would have still the rounded and the normal shape. So I had the surgery during his lunch break, and they sent me home with a ton of antibiotics, anti-inflammatory, and a tetanus shot in my shoulder. And for the next coming days, I really had a bad time. My finger kept on bleeding, especially the first day after the surgery. The antibiotics were completely messing up my digestion, so I couldn't eat properly. I couldn't work because work insurance wouldn't allow it. I couldn't work out. The girl I was dating ghosted me. Probably I shouldn't have sent her a picture of the injury anyway. And I couldn't even play Forza properly because I couldn't use my left hand to brake. Luckily, I still had my other hand. Now mentally,
after 2 days of self-pity, I pulled my shit together.
Well, I wasn't able to pull my shit together. I stayed stuck in the anger and depression phase of the 7 stages. As you might remember from my previous videos, I was going through puberty, and fitness was really the glue that was holding me together. And there it was the first time that I had an injury that was really going to keep me out of the gym. I had an active lifestyle, and suddenly I was at home doing nothing but watching Netflix and using my right hand, you know. So I couldn't train and I couldn't eat properly because I have IBS. So I was losing my gains quickly, and my mind went to a very dark place. If you have ever suffered from depression and anxiety, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I really had a bad time up there, and it got so bad that I'm ashamed of saying this, but I even started drinking again. About the healing process. As soon as I realized how serious the injury was, I ordered a peptide online called BPC 157. It's actually called Body Protection Compound, and I used it for the purpose of recreating the little fat bubbles in my finger as fast as I could. Now, I don't remember exactly the dosages I took, but I would inject it into the base of my finger twice a day. Now, it really is a pain in the ass to inject anything in the base of your finger because there's very little flesh there, but it's important to inject it as closely as possible to the injury. I do believe the peptide helped a lot with the healing of my finger because my surgeon told me I was healing more quickly than expected. The first day after my surgery I was supposed to change my bandage, but since the blood had completely dried up on the wound and I only had one functional hand, I decided to go to a GP to change the bandages, and this picture was taken there. Now, I was really quite shocked when I saw it because it's the first picture after the surgery, and the surgeon had put some kind of net on the wound, and that net was supposed to help your fingers remake the little fat bubbles. This is what the injury looked like 2 weeks after the accident. It's actually the day they removed my stitches. Now, if you've watched some of my previous video, you already know that there's definitely something wrong with me, because that day my surgeon told me that I could restart using the palm of my hands to do certain things, and since I had a really bad time mentally, I went back to the gym. Now, it's an incredibly stupid decision that I took, and I only realized it's now 3 years ago, but I went back to the gym against all medical advice. So they removed the stitches, and in the afternoon I went back to the gym and I started using 4 or 5 different machines with a fixed position to push things. I was tired and I had no strength at all, but after doing nothing for so many days, having a little chest pump really felt like heaven to me. It was a really stupid decision. Please don't be like me. If you're injured, take the proper time to come back stronger and more intelligent than last time. If anything would have happened in that gym, like another guy would have hit me passing by, or a weight would have fell on my finger, or I would have slipped on one of the machines because of the sweat and the fact that I could only use the palm of my hands, that would have been the end for my finger. Like literally, I could see my own heartbeat in my finger, and yet I was in the gym because I couldn't deal with my injury mentally. This was my finger just about 1 month after the injury. It was healing well, but like I said, I had to be extremely cautious and patient. One wrong movement and I would have ripped it open. I used a lot of machines, and mostly for months I could only push. I couldn't pull or hold anything like a barbell or a dumbbell in my hands. So because of the fixed positions, machines became my best friend. I believe this was 2 months after the surgery. The rounded shape was back and it started to look more like a finger. It's actually really incredible, but my body regrew an entire fingerprint on the area of the injury. It took more than 6 months before I was able to work out with full strength again, especially on pulling movements. I could mostly push, and my grip in this hand has never fully recovered. Even in daily activities, when I'm carrying groceries or something really heavy, or in the gym if I'm deadlifting, it's always that hand opening up. It's really still fragile. Luckily, I never lost the nail of my finger during the accident or after the accident. This is a picture of what the finger looks like today. So conclusion, the moral of the story is, don't go to the gym if you're completely exhausted thinking that you can just out-supplement bad lifestyle choices. Number 2, if you're injured, take more rest than last time and come back stronger afterwards. Take the necessary time to heal properly and then come back. Don't be like me going to the gym with a finger that's still half open and bleeding. Rest properly and then come back. And number 3, always re-rack your weights and check your bench press to see that there's nothing to the side of you and that you can drop your shit properly on the floor, just like Scott Herman showed in his video. I'll never truly know if it was me leaving the weights to the side of my bench press or if it was somebody else that moved them, because I asked for the security footage in my gym, but they refused to show it to me. They told me I needed a court order to see it, and I think it's quite suspicious. But in the end, it's still my responsibility to check that my bench is safe, and that day I was sluggish and I didn't. And just because of that one sluggish day, I will carry the consequences for the rest of my life, so be careful in the gym. What I do know is I will never play an instrument with this hand. I can't use it for any sexual purposes because the nerves of that finger never healed, so I don't really know where it is. And I can't trim the nail properly because the skin is no longer exactly where it used to be. I will also never be able to type as quickly as before on the keyboard or play competitive video games again. Also, as we say in French, la cerise sur le gâteau, the cherry on the icing, I had PTSD-like symptoms after that for months when I was bench pressing with the dumbbells, especially in the same gym with the same weights. My mind was really messing me over because every time, when you have to push for those 2 or 3 last reps, the most important ones, well, I wasn't able to push because I would see that injury, panic, and I would stop, and that lasted for months. Even 3 years later, when I'm bench pressing, I really don't like people coming close to me, and I will always make more space between my bench and the other ones. All because that one day I got sluggish. I never really actually thought about it, but that day somebody must have arrived in the gym and found a bench press full of blood stains and a 65-pound dumbbell with half my fingers still attached to it. Anyway, that's all for today. Please let me know in the comments what your worst gym injuries were. Subscribe if you like the content, and thank you for watching. See you next time. Uranus out.